Hello and welcome to the video. As the thumbnail suggests, yes, I did set fire to my S3 completely by mistake. Due to some bad planning and some unexpected circumstances, June the 10th is a day I definitely won't be forgetting anytime soon. In this video I'll explain everything that happened, including a series of events that built up to become a day from hell. Before I explain all that, let's go back and start at the very beginning. The idea basically was start with a £500 car, which ended up being this Golf, then flip a few cars, do them up along the way, Ford car next, then the Fiesta, and then now we're on to the S3. The idea is to not spend any more than you've previously earned from the car before fixing it up and selling it. So everything in the previous 6 videos has led us up to this point, where we've actually managed to get hold of this S3 that needs a bit of work doing. And as we have a good look round it now just to see what damage it had when I first bought the car. I'm just going to start this video as normal because I want you to realise that I have actually spent well over a week fixing this car before it caught fire. So I'm going to show you everything that I've done up until the point where it ended in disaster, and then we'll decide if we're going to fix it or not, if it's savable. This S3 I stumbled on completely by mistake, to be honest. I wasn't looking for another car to buy just yet because I still had the Fiesta when I got this. The lad who was selling it, he said it had been stood for quite a while, and straight away I could see that it was really tatty. It had been sprayed badly, maybe with some rattle cans, paint was peeling off it. Passenger side it had a bit of a dent, but inside it looks really nice. It's really quite clean, decent leather. It's done 105,000 miles. Yeah, it's a Cat D car, but later on when I tell you how much I paid for it, you'll see that actually it was a good price. I think it was a good price, but there is a lot of work to be done on it, and this is one of them projects that you just, the more you take off, the more you find wrong, and it is never ending. So let's get into it and I'll show you how much work's been done on it so far. It's not even attached, but it just will not go up into position. It's just very, very strange. No matter how much force I put on it, it will not go up. So I'm going to try fit the blue one, see if that actually goes into position without the grills on it. Then I might try it with the grills on it. But that gap, there's just no reason for it really. So after looking at that white bumper, I realised it's got tabs missing, it's got surface damage, it's not in great condition at all. So what I've done is I've managed to find on eBay a second-hand S3 bumper. It's the facelift one, so they seem to be going for mental money. This one cost 300 quid and it's damaged, but the one thing I was looking for is a bumper that had all the tabs on it. See, the white bumper has got these bits missing. This one's actually got one tab snaps off the top here, and that one, to be fair, is very wonky, but I'm sure we can fix that. That's okay. That's broken, but again, fixable. But it's mainly these, and these hold it back to the wing. The white one, it's missing, and all these are snapped off. Same on the other side. So I think this is going to be the best way to do it, to dismantle dismantle the white bumper, see if there's any parts that I can take off the white bumper to make this blue one work perfectly, and then build them back up and end up with one decent front end out of it all. Now this one seems to line up just fine. I'm really not sure why the other bumper had such a gap and I just couldn't push it up, but this one goes into the right position, so it's, who knows. What I'm going to do is get this bumper built up. I'll dismantle the old bumper first actually, and see if there's any parts of the old bumper that I need to put on this bumper, and then try and fit it again, see if it lines up better. I can't fit it properly because that other headlight's knackered. I've got one on order, but that should be here tomorrow, I think. But all parts like this, the squirter jet flappy bits, the grill and everything, I'll see if all that fits, see if there's any tabs that are broken that I can nick off the old bumper, and then we'll start repairing it and painting it. Always one that's rounded off, always one. Now at this point off camera I actually took the grill and tried offering that up to the car on its own, and it did appear that the grill was the cause, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I still was going to mount it to the blue bumper and give the whole thing a try. But it just seemed like the bumper were okay, but the actual, it was the grill, it looked like it were made wrong. It sat too low and it couldn't get any higher because of the crash bar. So that's the white bumper dismantled, and there's a lot more wrong with it than first thought. The more you take off this car, the more you realise it's been bodged back together. But with a new bumper, we don't care. We're going to pull this, any parts off this white bumper we need, we're going to take off it. Any tabs, we're going to cut off it and do a plastic weld on the blue one. The blue one's in much better nick. There's not much that we need to do with it, but there is a few bits, so we'll do that now. Now this plastic weld tool, if you've not seen one of these before, unfortunately the footage of me fixing these tabs is a little bit blurry, but I think you get the idea. These kits they're about 25 quid off online, and there's so much you can do with them, so many different little ends you can melt into the plastic. You can actually use it as like a soldering iron. It comes with all different types of plastic, so you can accurately match the plastic that you're trying to fix. It's brilliant, it really is, and very strong once it's done right. Now I already know there's plenty missing or broken on this car. Headlight broken, headlight support loose, intake snapped, wing, there's a bracket that was bent, washer squirters gone, not even there, aircon radiator, that's had a whack, there's no aircon gas in it at all, so that's quite clearly punctured. I mean, it's just disintegrating, so that needs replacing. And exactly the same on the other side. It's just a joke. Some stuff's it's kind of not forgivable. Like this, for example, it's a bracket that holds onto the headlight support and it holds onto the wing, and it just, without it you can't get anything to stop wobbling or line it up. The new part, 18 quid off eBay. So why would you put it back together or try and make it work with that? It's beyond me really. So bits like that, anything it needs is getting bought, because I'm not messing around with it. I tried for a while to line up the front bumper and it just would not have it, so I've ended up buying a new grille for the bumper because that was the cause of that problem, after spending hours trying to line everything up. Again, bits like this, without just spending 18 quid, it's not going to break anyone's bank, is it? Let's face it, when you've got an Audi like this. Without that, you're not going to get anything lined up, so it's going on, and it's going on properly. Again, the headlight squirters, 18 quid again. It seems like everything's 18 quid for this car, but 18 quid aside, done, fixed. I've also got a second-hand headlight, because the other headlight works fine, but it just had the tabs snapped off, and from past experience with headlights, if the tabs are broken, they're not worth trying to fix. They're really not. If you can get another headlight, yeah, it's a couple of £100, but it's going to work at the end of the day. You're going to save yourself a lot of hassle. So we've got a second-hand headlight. The fog lights are actually alright. I've not tested them, but they look okay. And then it's just a load of bodywork really. This the aircon rad I'm going to get to now, that's going to be pretty much a full front end off, but with all these little parts that are missing, it's best to do it anyway, just to take it apart, see what's missing and put it back together properly. So that's what's going to happen. On Audis, the whole thing is designed so that you can pretty much take the entire front end off. It's it's like a rad pack. You have basically the aircon radiator, then the coolant radiator, and then the actual intercooler for the turbo behind that. And you can take off this big plastic panel at the front called the slam panel and remove the whole lot, but to be honest, I don't want to drop the coolant on this if I don't have to, so I'm going to do this without actually taking the front end off completely. It just means a little bit more faffing about, but to be honest, everything on this car is a bit of a faff because, as I mentioned before, there's all sorts missing. I've found plasterboard screws holding the wings on, cable ties absolutely everywhere, bolts that have been snapped off and missing, so it's just a case of finding where it's held on and just dealing with it. But that's the aircon radiator off. And while it is off, we're just going to give the crash bar a quick satin black paint, purely because the new grille that I'm getting for it, it's like a honeycomb grille and you can see through it slightly, so I think it'll just look a bit better if this is all nice and painted black and fresh. Now it's time to put it all back together. Now this aircon radiator was a spurious one off eBay, so it's not a bad fitment, but it wasn't perfect, so I did have to pull it about a little bit and bend the bracket slightly to make it work, but it went on eventually. Now it's just a case of doing the reverse, just putting it all back together. Now I think this slam panel, it matters if it's not quite lined up, but I think it's one of those things that you're not going to really know how far out it is until you start trying to fit the bumpers and the headlights, so all I'm doing is kind of fitting it at a halfway point, kind of in the middle of its adjustment. Now goes on this bracket that holds the wing on. This was the part that I was moaning about before that was all bent. Next up is refitting the bonnet catch. Then after that the crash bar gets bolted back to the slam panel supports. It's the little details that count. I think the crash bar, if you can see it through the bumper, then it needs to be nice looking, it needs the quick paint, and satin black's the perfect colour really. Finally the washer jets for the headlights. Now the units are the same, but I think the left and right, the only difference is the direction that the hose plugs into them, so you do need to make sure these are the right way around. I think they will clip in the wrong way around, but you'll just, when you get them up to the car, you won't be able to connect the pipe to it, so it's just being careful to get them the right way around. And this whole unit just gets mounted to the car, ready for the headlight. Obviously we're not going to start putting the headlights back in just yet though, not properly anyway. We might stick them back in just to see if it lines up, but as this car's going to get a lot of paint, I'll be taking them back out again anyway, so it's just a case of making sure everything fits now and putting all the missing bolts and things like that back in. It actually went back together very easily, very quickly. I think it took about an hour to do this full front end off and rebuild again. 2 more T25s holding the other light support on, and there we have it. Now we know everything lines up, it's time to start getting some bodywork done. First thing I'm going to do is this front bumper. It wasn't in too bad nick, it's just the same as every second-hand bumper really. It's just full of stone chips and scratches, so get them sorted before we paint it. But this is where the whole thing starts to go wrong. I've taken off the side skirts because the plastic on the S3s, and you can't see the sill underneath them. So just like the Golf that we did to start with, the Volkswagen Audi group like to put loads of foam everywhere under the body panels, and it just collects water for fun and inevitably rots eventually. Problem being as well though, especially with this Audi, you can't actually buy like a sill kit for it. This is only on the 3-door models for some reason. I did ring Audi to see how much it would cost for a sill kit, and all they could do is sell me both rear quarters. And that worked out with the front sills at about 1,200 quid a side, so that's absolutely out of the question. But one thing I did find online is they're kind of like universal sills. They are shaped to fit on this car roughly, but you do have to do a little bit of work to them to get them just right. So that's the process we're doing now. We're just trying to cut out the car where the metal's bad. Actually, the frame underneath is quite good. It's not too bad, so there is some decent metal to actually re-weld this new sill onto. And this is the second time I've welded, so you'll have to forgive my welds. Although actually it didn't look too bad once I'd finished, to be honest. As I said, this process needed to happen on both sides. We got there in the end. These are galvanised as well, so they should last a bit longer than the normal ones did. There we go, not too bad. Actually underneath although the fixing points are a little bit uneven, I've got a really good fix under there, so I'd consider that a decent repair job, to be honest. And this is the other side. This one looks even better. And finally just the end plates, because they were a sort of part of the sill that fell out, but again there's decent metal all around it to weld, so the actual main chassis of the car is pretty good. So after doing this welding, super confident me and not thinking about checking my work, put all the welder away, went back into the garage, and my next plan was to start on all these bits, all the side skirts and the trims for the doors and things like this. Problem was, I didn't realise that the car was smouldering slightly, and about 15 minutes after I'd finished welding and packed away, I started smelling smoke and hearing a tinging noise. Then the next minute, absolute panic. The whole thing were on fire and I couldn't do anything. It was a completely ridiculous set of circumstances, because obviously because I was welding, I'd disconnected the battery, and it's an electronic boot latch, so I couldn't get in the boot to see where the flames was. Couldn't find my grinder or anything like that. I was just spraying water absolutely everywhere, but it was doing absolutely nothing. So this is afterwards when I started taking some parts off to see just how much damage had been caused. You're probably wondering why it's all bashed in on the side and there's a hole cut out of it. That was the only way I could think of while I was flapping about panicking to try and get the fire out, because I couldn't get into the car properly to see where it was. So my first thought was, if the panel's hot enough, I might be able to just puncture the metal and get the hose pipe in it. That didn't work, so I found the grinder and just cut a slice out of it, and as soon as I did that I realised just how on fire it was. It was just a case of more and more and more water, and eventually we got it under control, but wow, what a terrifying experience. After all this had happened, I kind of lost interest for a day. Then I came to my senses really. I had a load of parts, so I thought, you know what, I'll put the front bumper together and try and make a decision whether to bother trying to save this car, see if it's actually repairable or not. But the more I looked at this bumper, the more I thought, yeah, I'm gonna have to fix it. So please subscribe so that you can see what we end up doing with it, because I am going to do more work on this car. I am going to save its life and it's going to look good. So in the next video I'm going to go into a lot more detail about the damage and things like that and exactly what happened. Please stay tuned. Thanks for watching.